I lost the battle against DRM on today's Wednesday morning drive. Hey everybody, Matt Cribbs here, and welcome to another Wednesday morning drive. How you doing? I'm doing pretty well. It's a nice sunny day out. Anyway, I lost this past week, actually yesterday. I lost a battle, and it's been bugging me. I'm not happy about it, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. And the battle I lost was about DRM, Digital Rights Management. And basically, I've said this before, I'm in the process of rebuilding a whole bunch of systems in the workplace for my job. And one of the features we have is we make PDFs and we send them out to people. And you can pay money for them. And they're great if they're the type of content that you need to read for your job. So we do that. And also, for some of these PDFs, we put DRM on them. We use a system, I think it's called Vitrium, protected PDF, and that really doesn't matter. The details don't matter. But so as we were talking about redesigning the systems and redoing the systems, if we're moving from one to another, there's a cost associated with rebuilding the features that are needed to support this DRM product. And I was against it. I wanted to not build this into our new systems. And for several reasons that we'll get into as soon as I turn this corner. Well, I guess not as soon as we turn this corner because there's lots of cars coming. But I was against it. And mainly it comes down to a couple things. One is that I fundamentally believe, and I think it's true if you put some thought into it, that digital or DRM, I was going to say digital DRM, which is redundant because that would be digital rights management. DRM is a fundamentally broken product. It is something that it does not work by part of its very nature. So let's look at that, right? DRM in general, the purpose of DRM is to prevent unauthorized users from accessing a piece of digital media, be that a PDF or a movie or a song file, and or a game, and it exists. It's out there. Apple, iTunes used to have a lot of DRM on it, where if you downloaded a song, you could only play it on approved devices. DVDs had it, which was very quickly cracked. One of the problems with it. Blu-rays have it, but yeah, it's a attempt by a centralized agency, in generally the owner. Oh, excuse me. The owner of a piece of content or an agent operating on the owner's behalf to control via software and or hardware the access to their product. And fundamentally, there's some problems with that because digital media content is all just bits, right? It's all just stored as bits. And in order for it to be useful, the content has to be displayed. It has to be shown on something, or it has to be read, or you have to listen to it, or you have to be able to play it. And the very same bits, the very same process that is required to show the content is also required to make a copy of the content. I feel like we've talked about this before. I'll have to go back and look before I post this and see if we've talked about this before. Anyway, if we did talk about it before, it doesn't change what happened this past week, so the rest of this will be relevant. But anyway, so the very process needed to display the piece of content is also the process needed to copy it. Therefore, if you can use it, a copy can be made. And things have got increasingly sophisticated over the years to try and stop this copy from being made. You know, originally it was just enter your passcode, or you know, there you have to have a special program that has this encryption built in to be able to view that. The problem with having the special program is pretty much everything in the pipeline, from downloading to displaying of the content, has to also be part of that protection. Otherwise, one little flaw in it, and it's worthless. It can be broken. You get that problem a lot with the e-readers. You know, Amazon and them, they try to protect the files, the ebooks that you download to read, but you know, there's a lot of programs that can read that that file and then do not participate in the DRM, and so you can then just, you know, open it up and save it as an unprotected version. So as soon as you have that one program that's not going to play by the rules, the entire tool chain is worthless. It's the weakest link thing, right? The entire thing has to be secure. You just need that one piece. For the PDF things we're looking at, you know, there's all sorts of open source software out there that can read and print PDFs that don't have this DRM on it. So once you can get, you know, the access to view it, you can make a copy of it and distribute it. So, you know, that's all it takes to break the DRM. Now, that being said, the one thing that is secure, that is not really something you're going to be easily break, is another technique they added on, which was basically phoning home. Or storing the content on a server somewhere, because you can absolutely control who downloads and who gets stuff off of a server you own. This is, you know, why WoW piracy is an entirely different thing than, you know, a standalone game, and why a lot of the standalone games nowadays you have to be online in order to play them. It's not so you can be online, it's so that they can make that check to make sure that you've purchased that game. So, you know, that's the one thing that still works fairly well. Also, they've added to other software. I mean, that's the whole reason Adobe has pushed to Creative Cloud over the standalone products, because when you log in, they can check whether your account is paid up. So that's what exists. But once you get past that phoning home, so once you've come up with a program that, or authenticated to say, hey, I am now logged in, I can view this content, you're back to the old world. Once you can view the content, you can then manipulate it into a way that is unprotected. Either, you know, a simple screen grab, or a print to a device that makes another PDF that just does not have the copy protection. You know, those things exist. So it's very easy to circumvent DRM in almost every single scheme that's been made. Blu-ray had this. It was made, it was cracked, and all the DRM on all the Blu-rays was worthless. So the amount of protection afforded to you by DRM takes a tremendous amount of work and is very easy to circumvent. So that's a problem with it, number one. Number two is that since this phoning home method is the most secure, what happens when it goes wrong? What happens if you're offline? Guess what? You can't access your content. What happens if the server that it relies on to do that has an outage? Guess what? You can't read your content. So you end up locking out people from content that they have bought, that they own, that they can no longer access because the protection scheme you put on it relies on a service that they don't control that is not working properly. So that's another problem with it. It doesn't add a lot of value because it's easily circumventable. It locks people out of it that want to use it. And the ironic thing is that the people who are generally locked out of your software and cannot get in are the people that are accessing your content legally. They're your friends. They're the good people. So you're punishing the people who are playing nice. The people who can still access your content even though your server is down or you're having some technical problems are the ones who have cracked the DRM or pirated or whatever you want to call it, are the ones who are not playing by the rules. So inherently, and this is when it's working properly. When the systems are working properly, you punish the people who play by the rules and you reward those who break them, which is a reason and a motivation for people to crack your product and to access it illicitly or against the way you want to do it. So, those features make it an inherently broken product, an inherently broken offering. And that's what it is. Also, since it is hard, it's a lot of effort and money that you have to put into these things to get them to work and to support them and to keep them working for something that provides a broken experience. So that's why I'm against DRM. Also, another factor is the human factor, and that's that people are extraordinarily lazy and fickle. And if you put friction up in front of them being able to access your content, they will not value it as much as they do, as they might otherwise. So every time, and we sell our stuff for a lot of money because they're valuable documents. But if I have a choice to open a document that I know I can open on any of my devices, whether I have internet or not, just by clicking it and it's going to open, there you go. I'm going to use that one. But if I have any, if something doesn't work or it's unreliable or it's using some proprietary reader that has this DRM built in that's not as nice as another one, that's a little bit of friction. And every time I want to open that or every time I want to refer to that document, that's a little thing in the back of my brain going, oh, maybe it's just not worth it. And all those little pieces of, add up. And eventually, your audience just doesn't care enough about your content to read it. And so, if you're making amazing content that people want to use, they'll still read it. But why put this bar in front of it? Why artificially make things harder for your readers to use, your users, your listeners to listen to? Why do this when you don't have to? Why you're basically making your job harder for yourself to retain that. So these are all the reasons why, I'm against DRM and did not want to have it in my system. Although, like I said, I lost. So why did I lose? The argument was made, and it was the one argument that I really didn't have a ready answer for, and I'm still thinking through it. But the argument was made was that since our content is valuable, right? We place value on it. We want our audience to place value on it. It's true, and it is valuable. By putting this protection on it, we are basically making the statement, we put value on this content. We think this content is important enough to protect. And so we are therefore, putting into the minds of the people consuming the content that they should put value on it too, and therefore pay us for it. And so the argument was told, right? If you get a document for free, you won't think twice about sharing it with your friends because it was free. You're like, oh, I got it for free, I should share it for free. And not for free, even if you paid for it, but if you got it and it's copyable, by the fact of saying, so the argument was, by the fact of saying that I am not going to even try to stop you from copying this, I am tacitly giving you permission to copy and share it. And along with the value part. So that was basically the argument for putting this DRM. Even though it's broken, it's the perception, it's the implied value that we are ascribing to the content by just putting that little bit of friction in front of it that was deemed worth it and deemed a desirable thing. We wanted to put this thought in that, hey, even though we know it's broken, even though we know that with a little bit of effort you can copy it, even though we know that it might make your life harder, you might not be able to access this content on a subway on your phone, that's okay. Sorry about that, but we just want to let you know that this content is important enough to make it worth that difficulty, and you should think so too. And so I didn't really have a strong argument against that. And I still don't necessarily know if I do. I don't like it. It doesn't sit well with me. It feels deceptive. It feels not deceptive. It feels weak. It doesn't feel like an argument. It doesn't immediately make me go, oh yes, of course, well, we should use it. It makes me go, I guess you could say that. And so yeah, I haven't fully accepted the argument because it hasn't been strong enough to convince me. But for those people who were on the fence and saying, yeah, well, maybe we don't need it, that argument was enough to convince them that, okay, yes, this is why we should do it, and so we'll keep it. And so, I lost on that. But I'm going to think some more about it. I'm going to think about why is it not convincing me? Why is it not fully bringing me on board? And I don't know. If you have any thoughts, in the comments, let me know. Is it the fact that it's a several chains deep, like where the value, the payoff of that argument is saying, well, if we say this, then people will interpret it as us. If we protect our content, people will interpret us as putting value on the content, and then they will also put the same value on the content. So it's like 3 steps before you get to the payoff. It's a little deep, if then is what you kind of want to see. You don't want to say if this, then that, then maybe this, then, because each one of those chains is a place where you'll get fall off. You'll get people that don't do it that way or that don't think it that way. That might be one reason the argument doesn't fit well with me. I think another thing is that it's potentially easy to backfire. So yes, if we say that it's true that adding the DRM to the content will make people value it more and will do this. If we say that will work, that's one potential positive. But you also have the potential negatives from people not wanting to open the content that was mentioned earlier. You get people getting pissed off when they can't access something they bought. So, is that really, even if it is true, is it enough of a positive to outweigh the other potential negatives? And I don't know if I'm convinced on that either. So that's where we stand. That's what's going on. At the end of the day, integrating with this DRM system, not particularly thrilled about it. But I was faced with a proposition I couldn't really have a strong counter to. So that's the way it goes. You win some, you lose some. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Please, no knee-jerk reactions. DRM is evil. DRM is a plague that should be avoided. Fine, you can feel that way. I kind of sometimes feel that way, but that's not thinking about the problem. That's just basically a knee-jerk reaction. Tell me why. Whys are more important than just the emotionals. But whatever. If you want to say DRM's awesome, if you want to say it's a plague, go right ahead. It's fine. There's not much you can say to answer that other than, all right, glad you feel that way. So I'll talk to you later. Hope you have a good week. Stay tuned. Things are getting better. Things are getting under control. But anyway, bye.